Hi, friends. Welcome back to Becoming Unbound. I'm your host, Carly Butler, and this is the podcast where we break free from the limits that hold us back and step fully into a life of freedom. Whatever that looks like for you, whether it's personal freedom, professional growth, or shaking off the expectations that no longer serve you, this space is about embracing the messy, raw, and beautiful journey to becoming unbound. Today, I have a very special guest joining me, my best friend, the incredible Teresa Lombardi. Teresa is a triple threat performer, an insanely talented singer, dancer, and actress. She is an amazing dance instructor, vocal coach, performing arts teacher, and truly one of the best in the business. But more than that, she is the epitome of what it means to follow your dreams. Currently living in Florida, she's built a life around her passion. And if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that Teresa doesn't just talk about freedom, she lives it. So in this episode, we're diving into what it truly means to pursue a creative career, the highs and lows of the entertainment industry, and the mindset it takes to stay committed to your dreams. This one is extra special for me, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. Let's dive in. Teresa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here and speaking with you. I just feel like we're having a normal conversation.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And we have been through such an experience of freedom. You have watched me kind of break out on my own. And while I've been watching you this whole time of our friendship, just living this life of freedom, like of what it means
Absolutely.
to just pursue a life that means something to you without being sort of stuck in those, in those systems that, I mean, I don't know if have you ever really had like a 9 to 5? Yeah.
I mean, I've had sort of 9 to 5. I would say that I've always had a unconventional life, since childhood. I've been in the entertainment industry since I was a child. But throughout my adulthood, I've done odds and ends here and there just to kind of, in the in-between contracts. And then I became a flight attendant. So that was sort of kind of a 9 to 5, but not necessarily the 9 to 5 hours, but it was very regimented. And it was a difficult journey as well. But entertaining and performing and training and teaching has always been an incredible passion of mine, and it just has never left me since childhood. And I'm so blessed to be able to continue on. Although there are many challenges, as there are in everything, but I've been able to push through, and having friends and family like you, Carly. I consider you my family or my soul sister. And, we've been mirroring each other these past few years, which is incredible to watch and to be a part of. So that's been, you've been definitely a saving grace for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Let's talk about a little bit how we got to know each other and how we became these soul sisters. I mean, I feel like we could go into like the past life. I feel like we wrote contracts a long, long time ago to meet each other. But how in this reality,
Yeah.
how did we come to sort of meet? I feel like I
Well,
remember, but what's your take
I
on it?
mean, it was through your roommate, your friend Rebecca, who I had met in the journey of the lockdowns in Toronto. We were all locked down, and there was a whole community of us that were kind of awakening to some realities of what was being told to us that didn't sit well with us. And we were kind of on that. I don't want to say rebellious, but I do want to say that we were the resistance. Um, and we met through another community of artists and musicians. I mean, it was just a whole slew of misfits in the underground, as you say. Um, you know, getting together and trying to remain in it and like have some normalcy in life. And it was New Year's. It was New Year's of 2022, and I met Rebecca, and we instantly connected and became friends. And I was over one day, and you had come over with Brian, and we just that's it. We were connected. We were bound from being unbound.
Yeah, it's amazing what I have experienced and we've talked about this before on the podcast, where it's just quite amazing that when you find other individuals who share the same values as you, it's all of a sudden, it's like this, something just clicks like right away. You're like, oh, you were meant to be in my life. I was meant to be in yours.
Yeah.
And when you share the same set of values, and not to say that you can't get along with others that share the same value and they can influence you, but it's definitely this like unshakable like bond that I feel like I've found through members of what I would call like the freedom community. It just seems to click. And all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, you're not going anywhere in my life. You're stuck.
No. You said that to me this New Year's.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not going anywhere. So yeah. I was like, I know. I know.
Yeah.
It's forever.
It's incredible. And I think that just really goes to show that when you have sort of understood your own value system, it all of a sudden just, you can like, it's like a ripple effect. And all of a sudden you just start magnetizing all of these people that when you start to speak your truth, when you're going through that awakening, all of a sudden these people are just like coming in left, right, and center. And you're like, yep, I don't know, we would have never met.
Yeah.
And so I can reflect and say like, yes, those years were hard. There was the lockdowns, there was the challenges, there was the resistance that we became, but there was also so many beautiful people that came into my life.
So, oh my gosh, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And you know what? It really built up, for me, I really learned how to use my voice and to speak my truth, in terms of going against what the norm was, or, what was being told of us or expected of us to do, and to be a certain way, and to conform. And having all the information from the other side that was being suppressed and was being censored, knowing that background and being able to decipher information and make my own choices and my own decision, that is the epitome of freedom, in my opinion. And being able to go out in public and assert that, and just allow others, even if in the moment they were resisting what I was saying, and just planting that seed for others and helping on their journey of their awakening, because we all are here for a purpose. And, it's not necessarily some grandiose plan where, we've got to be famous and we've got to, have 60,000 million followers. And that's not what our purpose as souls here are, from what I've experienced and from what I've learned. It's as significant as infinity, just a smile, or just, a courtesy, a compassion and empathy, something so insignificant that you would think it just means nothing. It actually means everything in that moment. So
Yeah,
yeah.
there's power in speaking your truth, and the ripple effect that has.
Yeah.
And we've talked so at length about this, of the ripple effect that has
In
on the
consciousness.
collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you think everything is insignificant. I think we're told so much that like, oh, we're just insignificant. Look up at the stars. And that's that's a whole other.
That's a whole other topic. That's a whole other
Look up
podcast.
at the stars and feel how insignificant you are. And it's like, actually, I feel like it's the reverse.
It's
Like
the reverse.
when
Yeah.
you speak your truth into
And live it.
yeah, when you speak that truth into the world, it's marvelous. So I wanted to get back a little. Can you share a moment? I mean, we went through this whole awakening process. That was my awakening. But can you share a moment or experience where you just sort of like everything clicked, or you understood that there was, you could see people around you doing certain things, ticking certain boxes, but you were like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. Like, what was the moment that you realized that you needed to do a different path?
I mean, I walked it. I walked what I thought was the norm, or what we had to do. And I got married to somebody that, I shouldn't have, or, I had information of red flags and I ignored them because I thought, well, this is what you have to do. You get a certain age and you go through this and you have to fit in these boxes. Um, and then living through it, there was so much resistance. There was me, the creative, the artist, the performer, the teacher that was just living this free, loving, expressive life. And then there was the home Teresa that was, suppressed and depressed and belittled and abused. And I was living like two people. I was living this, in the outside world, I was living this like happy. Everyone thought I was just, and then in my home, I was, in this marriage, I was being completely, I was withering away, basically. I was withering away to nothing. And it was so hard to have this like this double life. And once close family and close relatives and friends started noticing a difference in me, a difference in my light. They kept saying, "You're not you. You don't look like you." And it wasn't until years later when I was looking back on choreography footage that I was going through, I was like, "Who is that person?" Hadn't even recognized myself on camera. And actually, I'd seen a dance show that I had been a part of, and I said to the manager, I was like, "Oh, why didn't you wait for me to take the picture? I would have loved to have been in that picture." And she's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "You're right there." And I didn't even recognize myself in the picture. I had no idea that was me. And oh, I just got goosebumps. And that just shows to me that this life that I thought I had to be like, that everyone told me, when you reach a certain age, you have to do this and you have to. And I tried so hard to do that and to fit in that box. And I tried to make everyone else happy. And I forgot about me, and I forgot about what I needed. I had stopped doing cruise ships for this person, and for this type of life that I thought I should have. And cruise ships was the best time of my life, the best shows I had ever done. Um, and I stopped that, and was living with this internal guilt, always this guilt, and then I was in shame, um, and I was not myself, not the person that you see today. That's for sure. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's really interesting, and the point that you bring up about not recognizing yourself. And I think anyone who's gone through any sort of journey to discovering freedom or to discovering a new version of themselves or discovering more of their higher self, you will look back and you will say, like, I don't even recognize that person, whether it's because you were shackled by expectations or you were living a double life
Mm.
or you were living just in this place where you're being suppressed. That shows up physically for you. And I
Oh
can say,
yeah.
even for me, like looking back on Carly, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't even recognize her.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me that we can go through these big awakening processes and physically change who we are. I mean, you can always change your hair and stuff, but in there's this other level of understanding yourself. And yeah, you can look back and say, hey, that was a different version of me, but totally unrecognizable. And so what was the first step after you sort of figured out you didn't recognize yourself anymore? You knew you were living this double life. What was the step that you took to regain some of that freedom that maybe you had lost in that process of ticking boxes from society?
Good question. Well, I really had to. I used to say when was going through this that, sometimes you just got to take a few steps backwards in order to take leaps forwards. And so I really, at that time, the only place I had to go was back to my family, um, and just kind of regroup and start over, um, basically from zero. I had all my experience and my work, and so the work kept me going. My classes, my shows. I had an entertainment company at the time, and so I just really delved deep into work. And if it wasn't for my family and if it wasn't for my work, um, who knows? But luckily for me, my passion and creativity and resilience really, really kept me going, and my family. My
Yeah,
family
that
really
seems to
helped.
be a common theme on the podcast, that people say that that moment where where they recognized that they were not free, then there was this flip. And it kind of feels like, yeah, you're like lighting your world on fire, but you have to take those steps back to then rebuild and to rise like a phoenix from the ashes. Like it is about, you sort of have to destroy the life that you know to
Yes,
create the life that you want.
100%. And I feel like I just have I've had opportunities, because we have to watch how we talk about our life and things about it, because our words have power and energy and frequency. So I have been given many opportunities to do that, and I've gotten better every time. Oh, I got goosebumps again. I've literally have opportunities where I had to step back. Whoa, this is not me. Pull back, regroup, um, and then start building again. Um, Even up until 2 years ago when I came here to Florida. I mean, you witnessed, you were a part of that, a part of that um, transition and fear and unknowing and, you know, crashing and burning, like for real. And it's now on the flip side where it's like, okay, now the cocoon phase is over, and now I'm like spreading my wings, being like the butterfly. I always say that. I always say we go through cocoon phases, or phoenix phases is a good one too.
Yeah, I think those challenges and those limitations that you come up against can be so powerful in a way that can just suck in the moment. Like sometimes you just
Oof. Oof.
cannot even see what's going on. But I think
Icky.
what's really cool is that when now I feel, and sometimes I get caught up and I don't recognize, and you probably feel the same, but it's like you can say like, "Ooh, this is challenging."
Yeah.
Can I catch myself in the moment where I'm saying like, "Ooh, this is hard and this is taking my every effort." And on the other side of this, there's something beautiful. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, and I have to move through this, but finding that awareness to like see a challenge, face it head on, and then be like, yeah, this is gonna suck for a bit,
Yeah.
and something amazing, like a butterfly or a phoenix, is gonna be on the
Yes.
other side of this. So just hold on, like keep
Yeah.
pushing through.
I always love the saying that I learned is, don't give up before the miracle. There's miracles every day if we just open our eyes to them. Um, and in those moments, we can call them dark periods or dark moments or cocooning or um, just solitude or recluse. Those moments are so necessary for the rebuilding of the next phase or the next journey that we're going on. We can't give ourselves that space to be that butterfly or to be that phoenix if we don't go through those. And I've learned now over the years, because it has happened so many times, that I've learned to now embrace it and be like, oh, this is this period. Okay, it feels lonely or it feels icky, but you know what? We have to go through it. So let's just grab a blanket and grab some popcorn and watch movies or read a book, or like just lay here and do nothing. And like, it is what it is. And just using those moments for soul rebuilding or light rebuilding or whatever you want to call it, but it is a rebuilding phase and it is necessary.
Yeah, I wish you could just run through life having like miracle after miracle, but with the experience of joy, there must be that experience of, I don't love the word suffering, but it is kind of that idea of like
Polarity.
polarity, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that without dark, there can't be light. And you can't experience that joy, blissed out
Mm-mm.
state without being like, but I know what the other side is. And I've
Right.
earned this spot, or I've come through the darkness, and now I can fully just be in the bliss.
That's right.
of everything that I'm experiencing. So
That's
in
right.
your career, in your wonder, oh my gosh, you are so talented. And I just, it's absolutely incredible
Thank
to
you.
me. But how has that sort of shaped your idea of freedom? And I know you talked about you were a flight attendant, and like how does that shape how you like embody that level of freedom or becoming unbound in your own life through your amazing and wonderful career?
I think I think the fact that what I do is so connected to my little inner child, um, that, when we're children, we're completely free. We're completely free of restrictions. We're completely free of judgment and worry. And we're just skipping through, dancing along and singing and it's just so freeing to be, you know, that little child playing. And I think that that is the sense of freedom that I get, is that I not only get to inspire and teach and educate children and adults, but I also get to constantly be in tune with that little, puffy haired Teresa little girl that just wants to be singing and dancing all around the neighborhood, in the house, all day long. Like literally, that's all I ever did, was just sing and dance everywhere. Um, since I can learn how to walk and talk, and so I think that for me is that level of freedom, the creativity of expression and being in the moment all the time. And I always teach that to my students, is that when you're on stage, when you're performing, you cannot think of anything else except present. You have to be so present. When you're in creative flow, when you're creating, you are allowing the ether, the creative flow to move through you so that you can create something that doesn't really already exist. And so it's like that self expression, that inner child connection, that I feel is what keeps me unbound, and just not given a flying F about anything, and just being and just doing it. Um, that's what brings me joy. And if I'm enjoying, then I can help others enjoy and express and keep connected to that inner child, because they never go away. They're always there. And we've had many conversations about this, where we can literally flip flop from like little child to like adult scolding into, teenage temper tantrum kid. Like, we go through all these timeline shifts every single day, and we can tap into whatever we need to in order to keep ourselves in alignment with our true selves, our authentic selves, which is connected to consciousness, God, universe, whatever the word you want to choose. And I think that's what we're here to do.
Amazing. Yes, inner child. I said as I was creating this podcast and launching it, it was like, yes, I'm creating this for myself. So for you and finding that outlet for your inner child to constantly be there, like you want them
Playing.
around,
Yeah.
always playing, being there, nurturing them as part of ourselves and never letting, like, I'm sure there's times when adult Teresa has to step in and say, nope, we're doing something different today because I need to do the back end of my business, or I need to have a meeting where little cutie pie I can't be there. Then there's other moments where it's like, no, let that inner child play and dance and sing super loud. And I think that's another level of freedom. And if you nurture that part of you that does want to just sing and move weird, and I do this sometimes, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm normal, but that's the point. I think it is normal. It's just my inner child asking and begging to go
Let's
play.
play.
So I
We
think
want to play and dance and sing.
it's beautiful that we can find, and I think that's one important lesson that I've learned through you, is that when we find these community members that just all of a sudden click, and when you know your value systems, it also allows your inner child version of yourself to be present and to be
Yes.
loved and to be like, oh, come out. It's okay. It's safe here. And then you kind of like unshackle your child self from maybe that closet or that little backspace of your brain that you've been living in. and she or he can come out and play a little bit, and she feels safe because you're around people that are safe, that value the same thing. And I
Yeah.
notice that in the people that I surround myself with now,
Yeah.
it's like my child self is safe to come out. And I
Yeah.
know that that's something we've talked
Oh,
endlessly about.
oh, yeah. And I think a lot of it too, you're tapping into a lot of energies and frequencies that are in that upper realm of vibration. And so I end up having, like, a lot of people tell me, they're like, how do you have so much energy? I'm like, I literally sing and dance every day. And I'm just like, la di da di da. And they're like, how? You're just like, boo, this like energy ball. And, you know, it's just the vibrations that you're exuding when you're singing and what's happening when you're moving and dancing and playing. They're just big vibrational frequencies that are just booming, and people feel it. They feel it. They see it. And it's not just me. Everyone can have this. Everyone can do it. We all have that. We all have the ability to play and be free like a little kid.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that also goes to show that if like you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like, gosh, I know that there's got to be another way, like have a look at those like relationships or your job, like is in those moments when you are with those people or at that place of work or in that you're relating with someone else or you're part of that community, is like, is your inner child safe?
Safe. Yes. I do that with relationships now. I've had to learn that, like, why isn't this working? Why do I feel stuck? Why do I feel unheard or unseen or unappreciated? It's because that little inner child that just loves to just be, floating around and dancing and singing and being silly and cute and funny is not safe to come out and play. And like, you know, so yeah, I've had to really look at um who I surround myself with and who I allow in. And it's a constant journey. It's a constant discovery. So
Yeah, and
enjoy the
it's not going to
journey.
happen all the time, right? There are going to be moments where adult Teresa or adult Carly have to take the reins and just be
Yeah.
like, nope, we got this. This is the big lever that pushes my business forward, and like, or
Yes.
this is the big thing that, lands me that gig or whatever it may be. Like there are moments, but to have that inner child safe and secure and be like, baby, I got you. I
Yeah.
think that's really beautiful. And I think it's something that's so undervalued. And I think it's also comes out. And I mean, in a lot of your interactions, you get to see like the brightest, most playful side of things. And for anyone else who's listening, it can happen. It doesn't have to be on stage or in a dance class, or whether you're having like during a performance. Like it can be as simple as, and we talked about this with my other guest, Ash, on the podcast, where it could just be like a wink at somebody in a grocery store.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we were together,
Oh, yeah.
and we were just jamming to the song that was playing. We're in the produce section, and then we ended up having like a 20-minute conversation with a lady from Portugal. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love dancing too, and I love singing." And like, we were just in our own little world doing our thing, and brought in a whole other being that was like, saw that glitter and sparkle and was like, I like that. I want this moment right now. And, and that happens all the time with us.
And you kind of like, you magnetize it into your like sphere. And I think that magnetic energy is, people see another human being be like, whoa, you look really free and uninhibited right now. Like I want to know first of all, what are you doing to get you there? And like, how can I be a part of that? And I think that's a beautiful unlocking of that piece of like freedom. Like you don't have to move to a different country. You don't have to change
No.
jobs. You don't have to leave that relationship. But can you all of a sudden start experiencing that like play or that freedom? And then all of a sudden you have a day where you're like, oh, I felt really free today. Like I felt like
Mm-hmm.
I just danced and I sang out loud and I was a little bit goofy and funny. And
Mm-hmm.
like that can be the freedom that you bring to that workplace or you bring to that relationship. And all of a sudden you become this catalyst for others around you feeling free and yourself feeling free and all the different versions of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't always have to be these drastic moves. It can be
Yeah.
simple little moments throughout the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you hit a good point too earlier when you said, sometimes, you have to go through these, darker moments to really know what that feels like, what the other side feels like. And yeah, it does it comes with work. It's not like, I'm just always la di da, like, their life happens, and we're still on this discovery, in this realm that we're on and learning. Our soul is evolving every day, and sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's hard. It is not easy. It is not easy, and it's okay. Is what my point is that being in those moments of recognizing what that is and being like, this is that moment where I'm gonna recluse for a while. I'm gonna solitude myself, or I'm gonna cocoon, or I'm gonna, you know, regroup. And I think those moments really really shape the next phase of like la di da, singy singy. Like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Yay, I'm free again. you know
Like seasons of
Seasons,
freedom.
yeah, good one.
And
Yeah.
I love the word seasons, and it just shows
Yeah.
that like I think there is those moments, and I think it's all about that awareness, like to be awake to those moments and those seasons in life, to be like, this is a season
Oh
that's going to
yeah.
be dark, that's going to be cozy, that's going to be like a little bit more of not depressing but compressing, like you are
Yeah.
becoming compressed, you are understanding what it is that's going on around you. And then there are seasons for like fun and play, like just like in the summer, like
Yeah.
winter is more of a hibernating season, and summer in Canada, you've escaped that, thankfully.
I mean, we had snow the other day.
Well, yeah.
I definitely hibernated. I was like, I didn't move to Florida for this. I've had enough of this. So I definitely cocooned.
Yeah, there's those moments of, and then there are seasons of more playfulness, and both have value, and both are needed, and both are necessary. And I
Mm-hmm.
think in those moments of play, if you can just remember that that's how you want to feel more, like you want to have more of those days than those days of, cocooning or darkness. And just remember that like everything that you're working towards, if you can just have a little bit more of that play, like you're doing it, you're winning.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
already doing it because
Mm-hmm.
you are, and because we can't always live in these like blissed out states, because that's just, I don't even know what life that is.
Yeah. We wouldn't even know what bliss was if we lived all of it all the time.
So in your everyday, I mean, we've talked about the word freedom. What does freedom look like for you if you were going to describe it, like if an alien came down and be like,
Oh,
what do you humans call freedom? Like, what is this thing that you're traipsing around and like calling let's be free, let's be free. What does that mean for
I
you in
mean,
every day?
that could be a whole other podcast in its own. Because I mean,
We tackle a lot.
we yeah, the word freedom, I don't want to say has been hijacked. That's not what I mean, but um how do I say this? We basically have been sheltered so much, whether it's, education system or government or family generational traumas, or we've just been very much boxed in soul wise, and knowledge wise. Um, and so I think freedom for me is taking off the blinders, or the awakening, where it's like you can see through um, the the constructs of what we've been told, or what we've been taught, or what is the box that everyone needs to fit in to live in this world. But I think that freedom for me is just taking off those you know blinders, opening up vision, and seeing the world without filters and without preconceived taught things, because really we're beings that are infinite, and you know, we've been told lots of lies, lots of them. And realizing that, I think for me, once I realized that I know nothing, but I know everything, was very awakening for me. It's like, I know nothing, but for some reason I know all the things. How do I know all this stuff? How do I know nothing? It's like this the ultimate polarity. Let's just sing and dance. Yay.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, just taking off the blinders, being awake to what's going on. And I think there's also like, you can look at the outside and the external freedoms that like you can discover what that means and see what the world has in store for you. And you can also take off the blinders to what you've been blind to in yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Like
yeah, big
what
time.
have you not? And so it's this internal, external understanding of what freedom is, but it doesn't always have to be external. It doesn't always have to be internal. I think
Internal, yeah.
balance of both of like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, there's so many things to learn when you take those blinders off and question things and start to just have a different understanding. You're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I've been taught this in the school
Mm-hmm.
system or whatever about myself or about how to be successful or how to live this life. Like you said at the beginning, like you thought you needed to do that thing because you got to that age and you were like, okay, I guess I'll do what everyone else wants me to do, or whether it's like, yep, I
Expects me to do, or yeah.
expects me to do, yep. And it's just discovering that, like, well, I did that thing, and now, shoot, I did the thing. Everyone told me I was supposed to be happy.
It's like, what?
What?
Yeah.
No.
No.
And it's so funny when you go through those check boxes. You're like, yep, I went to school. Yep, I got married. Yep, I did this. Yep, I bought the house or whatever it is, or got the job that now I can climb the ladder. And you're like, but I was told that at the end of this checklist, happiness and joy and abundance was waiting for me.
Right.
And then all of a sudden,
Where is it?
You get to the end and you're like, it's just crickets.
Right. It's crickets and debts. Oh no.
Crickets and death. Yes. And yeah, and I think just understanding that it's okay to go through that checklist. It's okay to do
Mm-hmm.
things that you thought were going to bring you that happiness. Because, I could do things now that I'll look back 5 years from now and be like, oh, that's cute that I thought that would bring me happiness. And maybe it
Yeah.
won't. Like, who knows what's going to happen as we progress and as we learn more and more and take more
Mm-hmm.
layers of those blinders off. Like,
Right.
it's wild what we
Yeah.
can discover. And if you think back even 5 years, 10 years, 15 years
Mm.
ago, it's beautiful.
It is. It is.
That yeah, you can just keep on understanding what it means for you in that moment to be free, to be joyful, to be
Yeah. And to
purposeful.
level up.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like Mario going through all the levels, like do. Oh, I gotta beat this villain, then I gotta do this thing, and I gotta jump over this hurdle, and then I gotta go down this tunnel and come back up, and now I'm in another world. Okay, now we're doing this one, and it's like leveling up
Yeah.
every time and learning new things and sharing it.
Yeah, always sharing. Hence
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
Ta-da!
So if you were to look back and in that moment of awakening or in a moment of darkness to your younger self or to someone that you can see is going through a hard time or a time that they feel stuck and restricted, what would you say to them as like what was the step? Like if you could give your younger self advice to embrace more freedom or to become unbound, what would be that first little piece of advice or that step you would tell them to take?
I would say go into the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself. Tell yourself, I love you a bunch of times and hug yourself and just you can't please everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You can love everyone. You don't have to love them in the physical. You can love them consciously. And I would say a big one for me is forgiveness. A lot of times we get stuck not moving forward because we're holding on to things that no longer are in existence. So if it's not in your present, it's not there anymore. So just forgive it and let it go and forgive yourself. Um, the hardest thing for me is to forgive myself, because I put a lot of pressure on, needing to please everyone. I needed to do this. I needed to be a certain way. I needed to, do everything for everybody. And then I always, forgot about me and forgot about that I have to do things for myself first in order to be the best that I can be for others. And once I learned that, I started feeling a little bit more free every time. I got easier and easier. And it gets easier and easier the more practice you have at it. And I've had a lot of practice. Had a lot. I think my turnaround times are a lot quicker of the dark times. It's speedy now. It's like it's a quick. So I've had a lot of practice. So, practice makes progress. So, if it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror right now and tell yourself that you love yourself, that's okay. Try again tomorrow. Try again at nighttime. Brush your teeth and say, "Hey, I love you. Look at you." And yeah, and let things go. Let it go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Don't hold on to it, because it weighs you down.
Yeah. Letting go of those expectations.
And, guilt, shame, remorse, fear, worry. Those are things we can really get stuck on loops in. Really, really very loopy. So letting go, so honoring them and saying thank you, because, you wouldn't be able to let them go if you didn't acknowledge them, if you didn't know that they were there.
Yeah. I love that. And I love it just does start with like love for yourself and understanding that if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling shackled, whether it's shackled by expectations or shackled by a lack of forgiveness, it could just be like you are shackled by a lack of love for what you know that you deserve in this life. And I think that is beautiful. It is just like, yeah, I love you. Give your body a hug and be like, wow, thank you for being here. Thank you for going through this darkness. Thank you for getting stuck. Because if you weren't stuck, you wouldn't know what it's like to unbind yourself from the shackles, right? You got to feel it, acknowledge it, be like, I'm stuck. This doesn't feel nice. I'm going to take the blinders off. I'm going to love myself and make moves or things in my day to change that. Yeah. Yeah, it all starts with that self-love. And definitely for me, because I understood that there was something that I wasn't loving myself. Like I wasn't loving myself in staying in the shackles, right? And if I could love myself, what would that look like if I could feel those blissful, happy feelings or that purposeful, fulfilled life? Like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
And then to do that and take those little baby steps and just, I love yourself. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I love you.
I love you too. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And oh my gosh, we'll have to have you back because I feel like we could just talk and talk forever.
Oh, yeah.
You are absolutely killing it down in Florida. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, hear more about your story, hear more about what you've got going on, performances, coaching, all of that? Where can people find you?
So you can go to my Instagram. It's sing.dance.perform, all the things that I do. So you can go there, sing, dance, perform, Teresa Lombardi. I've got a bunch of shows coming up at the Emerald Coast Theater Company. And I'm writing my own cabaret for Sowall House, James Bond theme. So you don't want to miss that. That's coming up in May. I'm going to be in Legally Blonde this spring. And just, I'm doing one-on-one vocal coaching, dance instruction, dance fit for athletes. And I'm a busy girl, but I love it. I love it.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, friends, if you are in Florida at any time, Teresa's your girl. You got to go check her out. Thank you.
I'm on the Emerald Coast.
On the Emerald Coast. All right. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I will put all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And the Emerald Coast is waiting for you to come back here.
All right. I'm booking flights soon. Next time we'll do a podcast when we're together. That would be awesome. Yeah. All right, friends. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode. If you liked what you heard, give us a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and let's keep continuing to live this life unbound.